welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I am working on 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life, day number 2. This sketch was created by Jessica Finn Hill. I'll have any social media links to her channel or Instagram down below in the description box. There is also a collaborative playlist for this hop, and that will be listed below as well. So I promised in one of my most recent videos, I think it played last week, that I would work on some 2-page layouts. So I'm going to make good on that promise today, and I'm going to turn this beautiful sketch into a 2-page layout. So I have 2 pieces of white cardstock. I have some pattern paper from one of my hip kits. This one is Chasing Dreams. I actually used this piece of pattern paper here on my Mixed Media Mayhem video that posted this past Friday. I have a bunch of ephemera that I pulled out that I knew that I wanted to try to use, a stack of photos, some acrylic Easter eggs that somebody gifted me, some chipboard frames, and alpha. This is just a scrap of paper. So what I'm going to have to do is do some cutting down of some of these photos to decide which ones I'm going to use, because I printed a ton of them, but we'll get that taken care of here in just a minute. So I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to make some cuts and we're going to get started. I'll be right back. All right. First up, I'm going to take these branding strips off of my 2 pieces of white cardstock. Now, note, my trimmer is trimming rough here. I just replaced that blade with a brand new blade, and the blade is dull. Out of the package, it's done that since I put it in the trimmer. It's kind of annoying. Blades aren't cheap. So I will be pulling that blade out and putting another new one in it, and hopefully we'll fix that problem. And yes, I cleaned out the track and everything, thinking that maybe that was the problem. It wasn't. So now I've got the 2-page set up for you, and I'm going to take this piece of pattern paper and I'm going to rip it diagonally. And I kind of get it uneven, but it ends up working out okay, and I'm kind of happy with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim off that branding strip here. I don't think I've replaced my blade just yet, but it doesn't always make the edges rough when I trim it, so I'm not sure what the deal is with that blade. Like I said, I just eventually replaced it and threw it away because it was just being such a pain. Like here, it was a smooth cut. I just don't understand what the deal is. Anyway, I'm going to use this piece of light blue cardstock behind the torn corners. If you noticed in the original sketch, she had a double layer of torn corners, and so I'm doing that here. I'm going to pull out my Close to My Heart tearing ruler, and I'm going to use that to help me tear a little bit more evenly. I always forget I have this ruler and then don't always remember to pull it out, but it is very useful for something like this, and it gets, you know, a pretty good bit of pattern paper, or the cardstock behind there, pretty easily, and then I can go ahead and get it glued down to the background. The other side, however, is going to be kind of wonky. You're going to see me put it on there in a weird fashion, and then I have to trim off weird edges because of the way I actually put it on that cardstock. But it works out in the end, and if you didn't see it on camera, you wouldn't have even realized that this is how I'm doing it. I do have to apologize for any weird, loud, random clanks that you hear. My landlord is busily replacing the shingles on my rooftop, and I wasn't expecting him to come by today, but he did to start the second half, and every once in a while a very loud clink comes through, and believe me, it's louder on your end than it is on mine, so that's why I didn't realize it was happening. Oh well. So I'm going to go ahead and get this second corner adhered on the first page. And so this is what I'm doing. I'm taking the design of that sketch and I'm just going to stretch it across 2 pages, which means I put the torn corner in the top left of the first page and the torn corner in the top or bottom right of the second page so that it stretches that sketch out. I'm trimming off the edges so that I have nice seams to go on. And alright, I had to change my blade and I had to put another refill in my ATG gun because I ran out on camera a minute ago, and all of that stuff is in the closet across the room from where I record. It's not handy. Anyway, now I'm going to take these 3x4 photos of my son Seth, and I'm going to adhere them to this yellow patterned paper. The photos are all double matted in the sketch. I am only going to double matte the larger 3x4 photos. The 2.5 by 2.5 photos I'm only going to matte once because I ran out of pattern paper and I didn't want to use cardstock. So now I'm going to do the double matting of this set of photos, and as per usual, I'm not measuring anything. I eyeball it. I don't measure matting. So sometimes it's off, sometimes it's not. Most of the time I get it right. You're going to see on the smaller photos I do kind of mess it up a little bit, but the end result of the layout is fine and it's not that noticeable. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this set of photos to my background. This has given me an idea of placement so that I get everything placed the way that I want it on the background. I'm going to go ahead and matte the second set of 3x4 photos. I didn't have 3 photos of just Emily that weren't blurry. One of the ones that I took of her was pretty blurry, and so I didn't get to use it. But this particular egg decorating day, my husband was actually home and he was helping out, so it was kind of cool to get him into the photos too, because usually it's just me and the kiddos decorating the eggs, and so it was nice for Dad to be around. We enjoy having Dad around, and this was great family time. So once I get the second set of 3x4 photos matted, I will go ahead and I will line up the 2 pages so that I can get them on the same spot on each side of the layout. Like I said, I don't measure, but I do eyeball it, trying to get it just about even. So that looks just about even to me, and now I'm going to work on matting the rest of the photos. Now I am going to run out of this pink pattern paper, and what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up piecing the mat for the second set of photos that are going to go along the top. But first I'm going to go ahead and get this row onto the pattern paper and get it adhered to the right hand side of the layout. I already mentioned that I am not going to double matte the upper set of photos, and the reason for that is I don't have enough pattern paper to do that. I'm barely going to eke one mat for both sets of photos. Now, I don't know if you noticed on the original sketch, the top set of photos were all the way to the edge of the paper, and so that makes it a whole lot easier for me to piece together the matting for each set. So here's where I start having to piece together the mat for the second set of photos, and you're going to see me get frustrated here a little bit because I keep trying to piece them together and it won't stay in place for me to tape it down. So what I end up doing is I end up taking a piece of washi and putting it on the back of it, and then I go ahead and get it on there, but I'm going to sit here and play with this and be annoyed for a few minutes. So I first noticed that the photo was actually taller than the other one. Not even sure how that happened. I thought I was pretty good at measuring them, but then I'm still struggling to get that two pieces to stay together, so I will have to stop the video, find some washi, tape the back of it, and start again. So I went off camera to piddle with this, and I finally got it together with the washi tape, and now I'm just trimming down the pieced together mat for these last two photos. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere it up at the top and make sure that my background is the two pages are side by side, so I get it on there even. This is where I discover that for whatever reason my mat's not quite the same. Maybe my photos are a little bit smaller. I didn't take the time to measure. Now I'm going to try to go ahead and fiddle with a title. And at first I thought I was going to be able to use that little bit that says Easter underneath it. I don't really like it there. I move it and set it aside. I know that I want to get that little round label down there on that lower right hand corner for some journaling, and I'm going to put this little green and white frame underneath it just to kind of give it some oomph, I guess. And that's how I kind of start. I move the word happy to the other side, and to be honest, at this point, what's bothering me is all of that white space. I'm just not liking that white space. So I'm going to just kind of play around with the bits and pieces of ephemera. I had set out some that I thought I might use up, and I'm just going to kind of start laying things around. I know that I wanted to put the little bow on the bunny. That bunny is really cute. And I know that I want to use that little phrase, and I'm going to try to cover up where my mat isn't even a little bit with that. There's a little phrase that says together down there, and I'm going to use that on the journaling label. And I'm going to pick up those 3 Easter eggs, and I'm going to move those around to the left side. So next I'm just going to pull out some of these smaller pieces of ephemera. I have the little hearts, and I have some butterflies that I want to get on here as well, and I'm just going to start just putting them on places. I really want to use as many of these little hearts and those acrylic Easter eggs. I really want to get those off my desk. They have lived there since they arrived in the mail, because I don't really have an organization system yet for acrylic pieces. Alright, that white space just was really getting on my nerves, so I decided to bring in a stencil and an ink pad and get some stenciling on here just to help break up that white space. I decided to use this stencil. I used it here a few days ago as well. It's a really nice stencil, and I even searched through my stencils to see if I could find a different one I wanted to use in its place. But I just decided to use this one. And yeah, it is going to really help with that all that white space that I just didn't care for. And right off the bat, I am much happier with the stenciling in the middle of that white space than I was just leaving it blank. It makes me so much happier to have some stenciling there. I like this stencil because it's easy to pick up and move and reposition so that you can make a continuous design. Sometimes you get a stencil that isn't really easy to do that with, but this one, it really is. So next I'm going to go ahead and start getting some adhesive on some of these things so that I can start figuring out where things are actually going to land. I'm going to start with the things that I know for sure I like their placement. I put that phrase up there on that photo of Seth and Emily together, and now I'm going to go ahead and layer those Easter eggs back up and get them glued down. So I was really having trouble with the ephemera on the left hand side, and so that was one reason why I stopped and added the stenciling. One, so that I eliminated the white space that was so glaring in my face, and the second thing is so that I could think
about where things were going to end up going. So I know that I wanted to do that little cluster of Easter eggs, and I know that I want that jumping rabbit to kind of jump out of the word happy. So I'm going to add some fun foam behind the word happy, and I'm pretty happy with the placement of the stuff so far. So next I'm going to go ahead and glue down this little phrase that says loving this, and there's a couple of hearts and a butterfly next to it that I'm going to go ahead and get glued down. I will use foam adhesive on the butterfly and just the wet glue with the hearts. That kind of gives the illusion that that butterfly is flying off the page, which is something that I like to do. And on that top left hand side, I'm going to glue those pieces down, and that pretty much makes me finished with that page. And now I'm going to start working on the second page and the embellishment clusters that I've put there. I know I want this other little bunny, and I already said that I wanted to put the bow on it so that it looked like it had a bow around its neck, and I'm going to put foam adhesive behind the bow in the center just to give it a little bit of depth. I'm going to add these acrylic Easter eggs. I'm using glue dots to glue them down. They have paper on both sides, and on two of them I could not get the paper off the second side, so hoping that doesn't mean later on that it'll decide to come off and I'll find it at the bottom of a page protector. That does happen sometimes with embellishments, but I like to avoid it at all possible. So now I'm going to glue my journal label onto the chipboard frame. I'm going to move the word together down to the bottom, and I'm going to add one of the little Easter eggs there, and that kind of gives me an Easter egg in that corner and 2 up by the bunny, and then there's 3 on the left hand side. I'm adding a little heart there under the word together, and that pretty much gets the ephemera on here where I want it to go. So I picked up the yellow letters. Again, this is a Hip Kit Club kit that I'm working with, so they're not thickers, but they are puffy stickers, and I almost always call them thickers, but they're actually not really thickers. So for once in my life, I'm actually going to bring in a ruler, and I'm going to make sure that my title is completely level. I know you're shocked. You should be. I never bring in a ruler to do this, but I'm choosing a relatively long title, and I don't want to goof it up, so ruler it is. So my title is going to read Happy Egg Decorating Day. We normally, with the kids, the day before Easter, will decorate eggs, and it's kind of like they're helping with lunch for the next day or dinner, because I will turn them into deviled eggs for lunch or dinner the following day on Easter. It just depends on what we're having and if we have any company. But the kids have always liked to dye the eggs, and it's just, a little fun tradition that we've had. We will hide them for them as well, and then afterwards they all go in the refrigerator. Kids aren't real big on eating boiled eggs by themselves, so we always just turn them into deviled eggs, and everybody likes deviled eggs in our house. So now I'm going to kind of straighten up the 2 pages and just make sure that I like the flow of both pages. And I'm going to go ahead and re-glue my journaling space because apparently I didn't glue it correctly and it didn't stick. And that's okay. At least I found it now instead of, after I put it into a page protector. And now I'm going to just kind of move other things around a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and journal on camera. I don't usually do that, but I just decided to go ahead and go with it since I had the camera on and I was kind of in a flow, and I'm just going to journal on this layout right here on camera. Of course, you can't see me writing because I'm left-handed and I cover it up, but you'll be able to see the journaling and the detail shots at the end of the video. Now that I have the journaling on the layout, I'm going to go ahead and stack these 2 pages, and I'm going to add some splatters with the same ink that I used for the stenciling. I just smush it down on my glass mat. I'm going to spray it with water, and then I'm just going to use my paintbrush to just kind of flick. It is a very subtle set of splatters. I mean, in the close-ups you can see it. You cannot see anything that I'm doing here. So, but it is just something that I like to do towards the end of a layout, and I'm just adding some of those other little white spaces on the page and call it done.
All right, I managed to get this layout all completed. Happy with the way that it turned out. You can see that I used the sketch to make a 2-page layout, and I just stretched it across both pages. I stuck pretty close to the original sketch, added some embellishments and some stenciling and a little bit of splatters, popped some pieces up on foam, which you saw me do on camera, and that's it. I'm pretty thrilled with the way this turned out. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I really appreciate those of you who take the time to like, comment, and or subscribe. If you are not a subscriber, I'd love to have you subscribe. If you have any questions about this layout or anything that I did on it, just drop those comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Stay tuned to the end of the video for some detailed shots. I'll show both pages together as you see them right here, and then I will also show each page individually as well as some close-ups. There is a playlist in my description box for 30 Days of Sketches Series 3, so make sure you click on that and prepare to be amazed. I am always amazed at the creativity and the people who participate in this hop. It is absolutely amazing. There are going to be some stunning layouts for day 1 through 30. So I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye.